This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening. This is Jamie Green, the host of Let's Talk Destiny talk show. Tonight, I am going to invite into the studio someone who is very special to me. For the next few weeks, I'm going to share some conversations between myself and my number one prince as we discuss the impact of incarceration on families. It is said that when a loved one is incarcerated, that the love that you do time along with them. And so we want to talk about this for the next few weeks. And I want to say that I'm extremely honored to have my son join me. I'm extremely proud to be his mother, in spite of circumstances, situations, all of that. I'm very proud of the honest, authentic warrior that he is, the extreme revolutionary. And so I'm going to begin by asking him some questions, and then he will respond, and we'll just have a conversation about the impact of incarceration on families. So, first, I want to say welcome to my platform, number one Prince.
Thanks for having
It's so silly. And how old are you right now?
I'm 42,
All right. And at what age were you locked up for this sentence?
25.
25. And at age 25, how much time did they give you? What was your sentence?
They gave me 50 years.
50 years. All right. And what were your charges? Was it murder, first degree murder, or what?
Nah, they gave me 50 years. First degree assault. 50 years.
50 years for first degree assault. That alone, every time I think about that, it gets my blood boiling. Especially when I watch people murder people, rape little children, um, rape and murder little children, and just all kinds of cruelties, and they get way less time than that. Some don't get any time at all. But this is what we call the American so-called justice system. And so we're going to talk a little about that as time goes on. But without going into details of that circus that they call the trial, um, what were your initial thoughts and feelings at the end of the trial with regard to your family? Since we're talking about the impact of incarceration on families, what were your immediate thoughts at the end of that trial?
Well, if you remember, and you may not, we talking about almost 20 years ago, but the first thing that I did was I tried to come and embrace you and even think about the fact that as, as somebody, can I embrace my mother when I'm getting ready to go away for all this time? It is a whole never matter. But and they said no. So my initial response was, you know, I needed that embrace. I needed that energy at that point. And of course, the savagery and barbarianism that this racist system is, they said no. And so as I went back to the jail, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, okay, I got 50 years. I immediately started thinking, I'm going to get out of here. And how am I going to get out of here? Right? So, you know, I went back to the jail. When you get that kind of time, they automatically send you to the psychiatrist. So they asking, was I suicidal, blah, blah, blah. You know, I frown upon that. I'm not gonna let them see me in a weak state because by that time I understood that this was designed to break you anyway.
Right, right.
So that was one of the biggest things that kept me strong and fighting even at the end of the trial because I always break me. So I just thought about you, thought about the children, thought about Trey, Trey, my sons, everybody was pretty much babies then. Trey was young. I mean, to the point of really still a baby.
Yeah, he was only 12. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just thought about how am I gonna get back out there as quick as possible.
And I remember something else also. Your youngest son was born 8 days after you had gotten arrested. So you had not
That's
even
right.
held him or touched him or anything. And I remember you asking the judge if you could kiss your sons, your youngest one and his brother. And the judge said it's up to the deputies. And the deputies said no. And I felt something come over me because it was it was like any question I had about the manipulation and the control and the idea that they wanted to make sure that we know that they are in charge. Any question I had about that evaporated because what harm would it be for somebody to kiss a baby goodbye? But they were just once again making sure that we knew that they were in charge. But one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about was the US has the highest incarceration rate in the entire world. And the latest statistics that I could find were 2019. And it says that mass incarceration impacts over half of US families. So that means over half of our families either have someone who's incarcerated or have someone that has been incarcerated or they're incarcerated themselves or whatever. What do you think when you hear that the United States has the highest incarceration rate in the whole world? Talk to me about this whole prison industrial complex thing.
Well, that's all directly tied to first thing people gonna have to understand is this whole so-called uh, Lincoln freed the slaves and the end of slavery thing is probably one of the biggest hoax that ever happened in the world. And if we gonna understand American of a corporation jurisdictional government, if we gonna understand this history and why this prison industrial complex is jumping off like it is now, we have to go back to that point in history and maybe even before, but we'll start there. So when we talk about the so-called blacks or Moors being freed, now you got 4 million enslaved Africans that are now so-called free, right? And it's already stated by that time in the 13th Amendment, I believe Section 12, of an African could ever be a citizen of the United States of America. Because again, it's a corporation and it was formed for English males. That's why you look at all the signers of the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution when it was adopted. You see it was signed by all European English males. Now, how do you take a group of people being us from being chattel slavery, private property, but you need that same economic supply? So what they did was democratic slavery. So in all actuality, we were transferred from private property to being unconstitutional 14th Amendment slaves.
Talk about
Because
it.
number one, the 14th Amendment has never been ratified. So when you have all of these, whether European or African scholars who run around quoting this 14th Amendment, they need to research a little deeper, and they will find there was never a constitutional convention held to ratify the 14th Amendment. So what the 14th gave us the illusion that we could now be citizens of this US of A corporation when it was already stated in the 13th Amendment that we never could be. And the Supreme Court ruled on that in the Dred Scott case. Now, this not only affected us, it also turned the European into corporate citizens. So what the people have to get through their head when you read that statistic, that it affects half of the population, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when you look around the prison, and you see 75 to 80% Africans in here, right? But the reason that it affects everybody is because 1933, when the government declared bankruptcy and the whole bank holiday thing, this right here is when the international bankers told this government, you are in debt and you have to find ways to pay us. So you will see along that timeline, birth certificates, driver's contracts, certificates, and bonds were starting to be used by the citizens. So this is when the human trafficking started. So you now had the industry of prison, right? And of course, the ones who always gonna feel it the most is gonna be us. But the European is also starting to feel the effects of the oppression that they had benefited from for so long. And because now they are realizing that they are nothing but corporate citizens enslaved to the system as well. And this is what that whole, these Trump supporters and they beefing about a democracy and this, that, and this. This is the backdrop of all of that. They're realizing that they are being treated the same way as everybody else, and the Constitution is being violated. So you gotta understand, it's all about commerce and turning people into commerce.
Yes.
We are no longer considered to be living, breathing human beings. We are considered to be commerce. This is why, again, the name is in all capital letters on driver's license and court case documents, pertaining all of that. You got these prisons are now on the stock market. Now, you know they're not even going to put a company on the stock market unless they know that's guaranteed to make money.
Right, right.
So if you put prisons on the stock market, this means you already have a guaranteed methodology of how to keep people coming in and out of these places.
Yes, yes.
And so when we look at them statistics, again, the highest incarceration rate all around the world, and then we look at the hypocrisy of how these people want to go all around the world telling other folk how to live, really need to wake up and pay attention and realize that it's not even about stopping crime, because clearly we see crime is on the rise. So if prisons are being built almost every day, people are filling them up, but crime's still not going anywhere. It's clear that the prison is not to stop crime, it is to make money. And as
Yes.
long as this US of A corporation, first of all, again, is in debt to these international bankers, then they will always put the bankers before the citizens of the land. And here you see why you have the prison industrial complex.
Wow, very good. That's very informative, and I know that my listeners will learn a lot from what you said. It will hopefully prompt more of us to study and research and learn, as opposed to just sitting back, accepting things the way they are, or just I'm going to pray. We need to do more than pray. We need to find out what's going on, um,
That's
so
right.
that we can be aware of what we can do. And a lot of, as we go on in the next few weeks, continue these conversations, there's several things that I want to address with you with regard to the life in prison, with regard to violation of basic human rights, including medical care, um, what educational opportunities are there, what rehabilitation opportunities are there. All of these things we're going to be discussing. I want you to talk about a conversation we had some time ago, how you compare the school system setup to the prison system setup. And even something as simple as the buses that they drive the prisoners on, and the cafeteria setups, things like that, that the average person out here never even thinks about. But these are things that I want us to discuss as we continue these conversations. Now, before we close for tonight, I want to ask, I think it's very important. As you know, I have this organization, A Mother's Cry, and one of our main focuses is advocacy for prisoners' rights. And I don't get as much support as I think I should, because I know so many people who have loved ones who are incarcerated. But what I find is that a lot of times people want to complain about things, but when it comes time to actually put your neck out there, um, people don't always want to do the work. And you made a
Right.
statement the other day, and I thought I had written it down, but I can't remember what it was. But it was something about people wanting to be in the moment, but not necessarily a part of the movement. Do you
That's
remember?
right.
Yeah. Um, because I think it sounds good when people say, "Oh yeah, I want to do that. What can I do to help?" But when it actually comes time to say, "Hey, we got to do some work," you find that you don't have a lot of people that are willing to do that. And one of the many things I also am going to talk about with you in the next few weeks is the amazing job that you are doing behind the wall. Um, as a mother, it breaks my heart to know that you're behind the wall, especially with the amount of time, the asinine amount of time that they gave you. Um, but at the same time, my heart smiles because of the work that you're doing. And so we're going to talk about the organization that you began, the classes that you're teaching, so forth and so on, how you're helping to change mindsets and consequently behaviors. And I want to publicly let you know I'm very proud of you and the work that you're doing. And we're going to continue to work together to spread the message of what you're doing. But before I close, I do want to ask you if you would just um, give me a rundown, basically, of a typical day for you behind the wall. Like, how early do you all get up in the morning? And is there a certain amount of time that you spend in these cells, or what is a typical day for you? Or is there any such thing as a typical day?
All right, so now due to the whole for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been even more restriction than it was.
Yeah.
So a typical day is they come around 4 in the morning with the breakfast, right? Um, so the next time the doors open up is like 8 o'clock if you come out for rec. Like you got downstairs that comes out by themselves and upstairs. So you may never see whoever is even upstairs from you. So they got us restricted, like, real tight. Maybe 3.5, 4.5 hours out of the cell a day. Other than that, we're in the cell, which is pretty much like being in your closet that has a toilet in it with another person. There's no programs. You got a serious, everybody's talking about the COVID pandemic, but our people are suffering from a drug addiction pandemic. And there's no type of resources being poured into this programs to help these brothers get some understanding in how to deal with the pain and that drug addiction.
Right.
You get a limited amount of people who may get to go to school, and even with that, it's nothing. So there's no real rehabilitation going on.
Right.
You just come out, when you come out of the cell, these brothers come out, they play cards, they hoop and holler about nothing. They play board games, right? So if you don't have serious men around that's about rehabilitation and helping people, designed to do that.
Yeah.
So, our day-to-day is a direct effect to why the recidivism rate is so high. And people want to know, well, man, you must don't like it in the street. You just came home, you going right back. But what they failing to realize is while they were in here, they actually got worse because you're just sitting in here and time is ticking. And not only is time ticking, but as time ticks and you sit still, that means you really fall out of place with reality.
Yeah.
If you don't take it upon yourself to keep up.
Yeah.
Nobody be fooled about what prison is. These are tombs. These are decimal crypts. These are warehouses. These are cemeteries. This is the real valley of dead bones. And if you don't have an Elijah to speak life into it,
yes,
then you're going to have to deal with these dead bones when they come out of here. So that prison is not meant to reform nor rehabilitate. And people got to get that through their heads. You're not going to help people by punishing them. You got to educate people and teach them.
Very well said. Very well said. And we're going to
60 seconds remaining.
Also talk about the causes of why people end up committing crimes in the first place. We'll talk about that. But our time is up. I appreciate you so much doing this. We will talk again very soon. I love you very much.
I love you more, Queen. I'm proud of you. All right,
Mishani.
All right, family is love.
Family is forever.
And lock that door.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
I love you. I'll talk to you when I get a chance, Queen.